knowing that we can err on the side of generosity, we'll give a couple minutes to see if anybody else clicks in before we start. Good morning. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, while we're waiting for folks to arrive, I'm going to give everyone just another couple of minutes so that we can see if we get a full cohort. And did anyone have any takeaways from last week that stuck out or that resonated with you? Anything you wanted to touch base on before we start? No? Any interesting scenarios raise ethical concerns this week? Okay. Well, I guess if that's the case, we'll get started and we'll just welcome people as they arrive if they're able to join us today. So I'm grateful you're all here, and I really do appreciate your desire to continue in this ongoing learning about ethics and the exploration of scenarios that might challenge us as recovery coaches. Today's topic is going to be more specifically geared toward organizations and relationships, and then that all important supervision. Because in that place where we are able to work together and share concerns with other people, we tend to have a better opportunity to react ethically, make ethical decisions, and respond to our recoveries in a way that's productive and positive for them. So I'll go over the learning objectives for today. We'll explore the potential impact of organizational policies and decisions. We'll examine some of these policies and decisions in light of ethical terms, concepts, perspectives, and of course the recovery coach roles, why we're here. And then we'll describe how the organizational use of recovery coaches can pose challenges too, but also opportunities for ethical behavior. And that's a pretty exciting part. So while ethical challenges arrive, the exciting part is it really gives us opportunities. And that's where I'd like to focus. If recovery coaching is all about positive, forward-facing momentum, well, then when challenges arise, we as recovery coaches should also be looking forward and thinking positively. Good morning. So, last but not least, we'll understand, or we'll hopefully have a beginning understanding of how this dynamic drives the need for ethical codes of conduct, ethical committees within organizations. Again, having that learning collaborative environment really helps us to perform in our best manner, I guess. Any questions about the learning objectives? Anything stick out? All right, then we'll review our process. We'll do the same as we did last week, so I'm grateful you're all veterans. You've been here before. We're going to group review the prepared scenario. I hope you all had a chance to look at scenario one and form some answers to the questions posed. Then we'll have hopefully a vibrant discussion about that one. Then we'll take a look at a new scenario and we'll review it together with some questions. And then we're going to have that fun adventure of the quick think breakout session. If we get a couple more folks, we'll do 3 rooms as we did last week. If not, we'll do 2, and we'll do that. It'll be okay. We'll figure that one out. And then, of course, we'll come back together and we'll discuss the individual scenarios and see what you think. And then that way we'll all have a chance to look at multiple scenarios. Again, for the quick think, I will break you into separate rooms for, 5 to 10 minutes to share with each other. At that point, again, I'll give you microphone permissions and all of that good stuff. You'll be all pros by the time we get there this week. And when we come back together, of course, I'll have someone from each group share what you thought. And again, there we go. Are there any questions before we start? All right, seeing none, let's dive in. So here is scenario 1. I wish we were in a room together. I'd have one of you read it for me, but I'll go ahead and read it. The county drug court contracts with Catapult Recovery to provide recovery coach services. Beth, a longtime Catapult employee, has been working with Jen, a drug court participant, for 18 months. During this time, Jen has shown steady progress and commitment. Jen currently has a steady job and attends college part-time in the evenings. Just before Jen's routine urine test, Beth becomes aware that Jen has smoked marijuana once during the previous week. According to the drug court's policy, relapse mandates a return to a 90-day inpatient treatment program, essentially starting the recovery process over from the beginning. Beth does not believe this policy is in the best interest of her recovery for a variety of reasons. What should she do? Good morning, Anne. What do you think? What are your first responses to this scenario? Follow the drug court policy. Certainly the first option. I see many of you are responding. Again, don't worry about syntax, spelling, capitalization, or anything. Just get them out there. All right. I think she should encourage the recovery to disclose her use to the courts. There are other options, such as contracting her and giving her a chance to stay in the program before having to go back to inpatient. And self-disclosure is always best. Yep, urge Jen to admit the mistake. Beth has a fiduciary obligation to her role as a drug court employee. Yep, drug court policy. Okay, we're across the board on this. Work with the probation officer, work with the court, see what would be the best recovery path to help her achieve and maintain recovery. And Jen should be disclosing this. It's a pretty consistent theme indeed. I met with some recovery coach service providers up in Buffalo yesterday, and that is indeed what they do. Is if there's any issue, it is not their job to inform. It is they encourage the recovery to disclose, and that's all in policy. Advocate for Jen when Jen comes forth with this information. Wow, you guys are spot on, spot on. And I'll wait for Euphemia and Janet, and then we'll scoot ahead to. Okay, I'm so eagerly waiting for the typing. I just love that little note. So, all of the above, but advocate for Jen, as the policy, according to Beth, is not in Jen's best interest. That's right. Our recovery is our prime focus. As we learned during the training, that picking up once is a lapse, not necessarily relapse, and support her. And then what if Jen does not inform? Oh, you guys are leaping ahead to some of my questions. These are great. Great. I love how you're thinking. Yep, advocate for her. Sometimes the drug court judge may think about the entire situation. That's right. There often is discretion. There is discretion at the court. I'll let you know this was an actual scenario that was brought up to us in a training, and so I will let you know what happened at the end. So you mentioned fiduciary. I believe that was Melody. What ethical terms and concepts does this scenario highlight? Let's discuss it in those terms, and I will put them up for your review. Iatrogenic, behavior causes unintended harm. Yep, fiduciary, very much so. Recovery coach assumes a special duty or obligation for the care of another. Any others? They may increase or decrease intimacy within the relationship. That recovery coach recovery dynamic is a relationship, all indeed. Many of these scenarios do, and it really looks at perspective, the concept of perspective. Multi-party if Beth does not follow her duty as an employee. It's true. There are multiple parties, multiple layers. Most situations are never one-dimensional, especially when we're dealing with humans, especially when we're dealing with humans in recovery and recovery, coaching recovery for them or with them. What has she sworn to do? What is she instructed to do? What are the policies of her agency? I see Anne is typing. Multi-party. I work with the drug court judge with Families Against Narcotics. She's my friend, but she is the presiding drug court judge. Have situations like this ever occurred, Anne, that you know of? The son of a good friend of our family. There are layers and layers. Okay. Were there policies in place? I see a couple of people are typing. Yep, we did not discuss this with the judge at all. He could not jeopardize the case or compromise the judge's position. Okay. In this case, the client would not disclose. We gave her the option to have her urine retested. It was negative. We paid for the confirmation test, and if it was positive for THC, she would pay. She was already on a contract. Very good. So it was proactive. You had been proactively thinking about these types of situations before they happen. That's key. So what recovery coach roles does this scenario risk compromising? And I'll put those up there for your. We talked about advocating quite a bit in our previous discussion. It is interesting how many of them are touched by this. Absolutely. Ally, confidant, problem solver, advocate. Indeed. All of them. What kind of resources might be available to mitigate the situation or to inform the situation in our roles as resource brokers? Truth teller, ally, confidant, all. Pretty role model. Yes, we show by example. Honesty is a huge, huge, huge piece. We, how do we balance some of the roles? Because again, it is our obligation to be a truth teller, but also an ally and also an advocate. So we have thought that this policy is out of line with this specific situation. So, resource broker, we're supposed to be aware of all the different, a variety of avenues within the community or other support systems, connections. Is there anything as a resource broker that comes into play when one of our recoveries has what appears to be a conflict with policy? Hmm. I love it. I love seeing all the feedback. Yes. If she has a sponsor in NA, and could she speak to the sponsor? That's right. We could encourage some some other perspectives potentially. And do we as a recovery coach have a supervisor or someone we can bounce this off of? Connect with Jen, connect her with a peer support prevention program outside of drug court. Yep. Again, having some additional resources in place if we choose to respond to this situation by advocating for our recovery with the drug court, looking perhaps for some of that discretion and seeing what might happen. The more resources we can have in place that would support her continuing positive forward-facing recovery might encourage, again, the drug court judge to apply that discretion. And, there may be another option than going directly back to the 90-day inpatient treatment. What is at risk for Jen going back to that mandatory 90-day inpatient treatment? Yes, we could. Indeed. Maybe there was a trigger. Ideally, yes, identifying the triggers so that we can prevent it next time, help her prevent it next time. These are great, great responses. So what's at risk for Jen? Yes, the risk of returning to treatment is Jen feels she's lost all the progress she's made. Yeah, very disheartening. Losing her job, everything she's worked for, losing her confidence. Confidence, that's such a great word. Thank you, Euphemia. Yes, her time, the threat of having to do jail time for a violation, that's possible too. Yes, yes, yes. So big risk, big risk. She could full out relapse in frustration. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where there's big risk, there is big opportunity. Yes. So the perspective of the people in the actual 90-day program themselves. That's right. There are layers and layers of people who might be affected by what Beth does or doesn't do in this situation. She could use this as a learning experience and grow in her recovery. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything along the way is a chance to learn something new. The coordinators are key. Absolutely. Tying in all the people that we have at. Mhm. She could be a role model for newcomers. I love that. There are positives and negatives, or opportunities and challenges. Okay. Yes. 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 Recovery coaches, be there for support. Support, support, support. I see Janet is typing. All right. The role model for the newcomer could be positive and being honest, encourages the others to know that it's not a perfect program. We do fail, but if we're honest, we can help others step up and share their struggles. Very nice. Nicely put, Janet. Yeah. So here's a little twist to this. How might Beth's response differ if she learns about the relapse directly from the recovery, or if she learns about the relapse from someone else? Okay. Still disclosure to the court. Whose disclosure? Beth disclosing? Is that what I'm hearing you say, Glenn? Either. What would her first task be if she hears it from another person? Talk. Yep. Beth should absolutely confirm with her recovery what it is she's heard. That's, honesty, letting her know. I give her a chance to explain. Yes. Consider the source of who disclosed the info. Indeed, was it another recovery? Is it someone from outside the system? Is it someone from within the system? Is it, what's the motivation of the revelation? Is it to help Jen? Was the nature of the revelation? Yes, we want that honesty. Check the motives of the source. Very much so. Well, what do you have to say about that, Melody? I think let's see, learning from the recovery shows the recovery knows that he or she made a mistake and is reaching out. Not disclosing could mean she's ashamed. Hearing it directly from the recovery, they could talk, explore why she smoked. Not disclosing could present the concern that it may happen again. Indeed. Indeed. So let's think about motives. Again, if you hear from another recovery coach, or if you hear from a contemporary of Jen's, somebody else in the program, again, our history, our knowledge, our willingness to talk with the people that we are in concert with in our organization. I see a couple of people are typing, so we'll let you finish. I love the depth of your thinking. It's going exactly. Investigating the situation, right? No, not a snap judgment. Trying to understand all the layers. Yes, Beth is in the situation of not knowing how credible the information is, and then Beth has to decide how the relationship could be impacted if the story's not true. That's true. Multiple skills of the coach. Absolutely, Melody. Absolutely. Yes, it could make or break the relationship. It could put Beth in a compromised professional situation. It could put Jen in a compromised recovery situation. Yes, yes, yes. Never assume. Never assume. There's a lot of skill. This is where the art of coaching comes in as well, because you can have all of the textbook skills, but again, that art. So looking at this scenario, perhaps the recovery and coachee could discuss prior what they would do. Absolutely, being proactive, 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 proactive. Thank you. Somebody earlier said that they had a very clear direction to go because they had a contract in place, that the recovery was already quote unquote under contract. And that's key, being proactive. Slips happen, lapses happen, full out relapse happens. Discussing that in advance, understanding what the scenarios are, what are the consequences. I see a couple more people typing, so we'll go with this. Again, it's ethical considerations, ethical conversations are deep and rich and wide. Great idea, Euphemia. Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. Again, philosophical discussions. No specific right or wrong. I wish ethics were like math and there were a simple answer for any given formula. But it's not the case with ethics. Yes, and what is the drug court stand in differentiating the difference between lapse and full-blown relapse? Exactly. Can we encourage our courts, to modify blanket statements, that this is the absolute protocol? I understand that things have to apply across a wide range of situations. But again, when we're dealing with recovery, we're dealing with individuals and individual relationships. And that's what makes it special and incredible and powerful, but it also makes it tricky. Yep, it's a day by day process and journey. Indeed. Indeed. Now, thinking that Beth is working as part of an organization, I'm going to ask this next question. It's highly likely she has a supervisor. She has someone that she's working together with. If not, she's in group supervision with other recovery coaches. What then are the ethical challenges and opportunities for the supervisor and for the organization? Yep. Yes, yes. Everyone can put input or can add input. And if the organization doesn't handle this appropriately, they risk their relationship with the drug court. Exactly. Multi-party vulnerability. Very good. The recovery coach service providers I was talking with yesterday, we talked a lot about supervision and that group supervision. They meet periodically. They go over these tough cases. The recovery coach reputation is at risk. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. Opportunity preventing further usage challenges it can challenge the trust between court and recovery, the worker. Mm-hmm. I love it. If Yes, collaborative feedback. Indeed, collaborative feedback. Yes, confidential info and or conflict if other recovery coaches know the recovery. Most of the judges here in Boston with the heroin pandemic are now approachable and willing to work. Yes. Yes, if there is an honest effort. And there's that discretion again. So, one of the opportunities as an organization is to educate the courts. This is what recovery looks like. And this is a learning opportunity potentially. Right. And there's that concept of honest effort. Yes, honest. Supervisors can put plans of action into place to deal with such instances. Exactly. Being proactive is always better than, yes, educating than reacting. If we have thought about these things in concert with our peers, our recovery coach peers, and our those supervising us within organizations. The entire recovery coach system could be questioned as effective if the proper protocol is not followed. It could give CCAR and recovery coaching a bad rep. That's true. And that, I think, begs the question of what is our relationship with the people that we provide services for? If we're seen as collaborative partners, if we're working in this together, if we're shown to be professional and that we're considering things from an ethical perspective and a legal perspective even, are we then more credible and or trustworthy and or considered a partner with the people that we provide those services for? We're developing relationships on many fronts, many fronts. Yes. And I'll give you what happened in this situation. This was an actual situation. It took place in Western Pennsylvania. Let's see, and in New Jersey, we'd like to work with drug courts. It seems that their requirement to report has conflict with our way of providing recovery support. We're only effective with our peers if they feel safe with us. Very well said. Both of those points are very important. And in this case, I'll let you know that the recovery coach did indeed work together with the supervisory team. They created they basically thought of what was in the best interest for their recovery. And they took that information, they took the history, the information, and again, some of the resources that they could bring to bear to help this person, Jen, that's not her real name, clearly. And they brought that all before the drug court with Jen's full acknowledgement and participation in that process. So she was self disclosing. And the beauty was discretion was applied. They absolutely were able to work out a new situation that did not kick her back into a 90-day program. She had very specific requirements, benchmarks to meet. And so it was a win-win for both sides and for all sides, I guess, in this instance, because Jen was treated with respect. Um, you mean, was she mandated to a recovery coach, or is this a choice? It's a part of the drug court system, yes, that she participate with a recovery coach. And so, again, the recovery coach and her supervisory team and the recovery presented this case, and they were able to essentially create a new paradigm. And again, there were specific consequences put into place if it happened again. But all in all, Jen did well. She did well after that because of the respect she was shown, because she was able to use this as a learning opportunity. The recovery coach was able to use it as a learning opportunity within the organization as well. This is what we can do. This is a chance for us to act in the best interest of our recovery and in the Yes, empowered by that decision. Absolutely. It's a chance for us to demonstrate that we as recovery coaches do have a unique way of working with our clients, our customers, our recoveries. Yes, 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 yes. Um, and essentially there was big system change potential here, and that was the biggest win from this situation. Now again, they had a court that was willing. Not all of us are that lucky. I see Janet's typing. Possibly. Yep, you could pull a resource, any resource you can bring to bear to help Jen manage whatever it is that she identifies as the trigger to use, or what are some of the extenuating factors that led to her decision to do that. Absolutely. Absolutely, using it as a learning opportunity. How can we avoid that again? How can we help Jen avoid that again? Honesty, it's new for us. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is scary. We've lived deceiving ourselves, deceiving others for so long, that becomes the normal. So the idea that you can step forward in honesty and have a good outcome is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. Connects us with that nebulous concept of faith. Faith in ourselves, faith in a system, faith in making good decisions. Wow, are we ready to dive into another scenario? These are layered scenarios. All right. Let's take a look at a new one then together, and I'll read it slowly. Jorge supervises a team of 6 recovery coaches for an organization that provides a variety of services, including prevention, treatment, IOP, and residential. His organization has recently been asked to provide recovery coach services to the residents of a collegiate recovery community in a neighboring town. The college that sponsors the CRC uses information gathered about CRC residents to fuel its addiction and recovery research initiative, as well as to solicit funding from a variety of sources, including alumni. The CRC's policies for data gathering and reporting are much more rigorous than those Jorge is used to following. He will be responsible for communicating these policies to his team, as well as collecting all data and delivering it to the CRC's clinical research director. It has been made clear to Jorge that this relationship with the CRC is valuable to his organization in terms of potential referrals to its other services. That's a long one, so I can go back to the front and we'll do it really again. So we'll recap. Jorge has a team of 6 recovery coaches. It's a multi-layered organization. They provide a variety of services. They've recently been contracted or asked to provide these recovery coach services to a collegiate recovery community. The collegiate recovery community is an interesting bird on its campus. So it's not just a residence; it's also a data collection source for an addiction and recovery research initiative. And the college uses the data, this positive data, to solicit funding. That data gathering then clearly is very, very important, and it's rigorous. And Jorge's not used to that. And he's in charge now of responding to both the CRC's requirements and communicating what that looks like for his team. And obviously his organization says this relationship is pretty important because this CRC may be a source for us of referrals to our services, whether it's intensive outpatient or potentially residential if somebody needs supportive living or is kicked back to a 90-day inpatient stay. Layers and layers and layers. I know it's the first time you've seen it, but what's the first thing that comes to mind? Here are some considerations. In terms of terms, ethical terms, recovery coach roles, and some of the layers of this scenario. What comes to mind? What strikes you? Yep, HIPAA, confidentiality, indeed. It's likely that the participants in human subject issues consent, absolutely. It is, policy on campus that if you're going to be part of a research cohort, that you do sign consent for that. You understand that what's known about boundary management. Yes, boundaries all over the place. I see many people typing. The real work, which is recovery coaching, yes, we risk losing sight of that. Are we an arm of the college research initiative? How does that make us feel? Yes, 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 yes. Oh, in Michigan. It's a team effort with multiple recovery coaches. So much responsibility could compromise his effectiveness in this position. Yes, yes, he could be overwhelmed. Yes. Yeah, this is not a fictitious scenario. Many of I applaud the inclusion of collegiate recovery is a burgeoning um, idea and initiative. In some places, it's been around 30 years in, say, New Jersey, but in other places, it's brand new, and people are using it. Um, to look at what does recovery look like, what does addiction look like on campus, and many of these students are involved in research. I don't know. I'm thinking this could be a cross purpose, and how can the recovery coach not be biased if the services are being referred to as multi-layer services? Yes, yes, yes. There are so many conflicts here. That is an absolute layer. Um, as an organization, there is a challenge there. It sounds a little I guess heavy-handed might be a polite way to put that, that his organization says, whoa, this is important to us because. However, yes, Melodies does point out a good point. When we have data, it can prove that our work is valuable. Yes, 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 yes. And again, when we're looking for funding, it's data driven, data driven, data driven. So there is that layer. There is that layer. What are our outcomes? How do we measure? What are our benchmarks? Have we thought of these things? Again, partnering with a research organization can be helpful to us in that way, but it can be problematic, again, if indeed we're then looking at them as as a referral source, a way for us to generate income. Is it a way for us to generate information, potential positive information, or is it a money source? What is our purpose? Yes, 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 yes. As long as that recovery coach has something in place that it's almost as if it then would not be a conflict of interest if they are instructed that they can refer to any other recovery program. Well, tell me more what you mean, Danielle. Help me understand. When you say it goes against what we're about, because that's a great question. Anybody can chime in. What do you think is meant by the scenario goes against what we are about? Yes, it does. Because you're not given all the details. That's for sure. And it's meant to raise these kinds of discussions. Yes, there is huge potential conflict of interest in this one. Us being true to our role as coaches, keeping our recoveries as our priority. We are there first to serve them. The trust is a huge piece. What could be in place organizationally if indeed, we're asked to do this? What would have to be in place? Organizational policies. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. This one would have to be spelled out pretty clearly. What is allowed, what is not allowed, what is required, what is not required. How do we avoid the appearance of impropriety? Yes, and procedures. Yes, yes. As recovery coaches are often new to organizations, does a role of educating our organizations what about what we do and how we do it and why that trust is so valuable and important, is that a piece of this? It says, I have questions regarding the RC Jorge supervises. Do they come from other organizations such as a health department? No, they're all for this scenario, they're all within his organization. RC training for those who are expecting us to help provide them with it. Yes, yes, yes. That would be great. So indeed, educating, educating, educating. This is what recovery looks like. This is what recovery coaching looks like. This is what we can do. This is what we do. This is what we are less inclined to do because it compromises the trust factor or the honesty factor. Again, having specific organizational policies. Any other things about this scenario strike you? Is there a big role for supervision? If this is indeed something that Jorge's agency is asked to do, where does supervision play in this? Yes, 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 yes. I mean, Jorge is himself a supervisor of recovery coaches, but he should have someone to work with, think with. And therein lies that next question. To whom might Jorge express his questions or concerns? It's huge boundaries in place to ensure the recovery coach is able to follow the role he's being asked to perform. Absolutely. Yes, yes, collaborative. And thank you. Yes, the organization and the college team have to sit down together for that policy agreement. Yes, I agree. This scenario does make recovery coaching appear to be much more clinical than peer-to-peer, and that is a huge risk. As organizations are asked to do this, there are risks to the entire provision of recovery coach services. So yes, the nature of the relationships can be at risk. So really, really being careful. We're going to be asked to do things as this becomes more and more available, embedded in organizations. Yeah, I could the college, could the recovery coach organization train some of the collegiate recovery community participants to be coaches themselves and for each other and put it back in-house in the CRC itself? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, really putting those peers right in place in the college, embedding them within the college, and letting them then create their own internal policies and procedures and documentation and data collection and yes, sort of building up more boundaries, being clear about what they are. Yep. Yep. Oh, of course. Ongoing professional development. Thank you, Davy. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's true. That is true, Euphemia. The more funding is sought, the more likely the demands will be made to meet the funders' requirements about how recovery coaching process might look. This is, there are risks and benefits to growing this designation. Absolutely, Melody. This is, yep, yep. Data. What kind of data? What does it look like? How do we measure it? Helping educate people. This is what recovery looks like. This is what recovery looks like. Again, if we don't define it as recovery coaches and as organizations that employ recovery coaches, if we don't define it, somebody else will. Absolutely. Outcomes, outcomes, outcomes. Yeah. Foreign territory. I like the way you say that, Anne. It's true. Much of what I spend my time doing is explaining still. What is recovery coaching? What does it look like? How does it differ? How does it support? How does, and one of the key words here that I'm not hearing, but I know I'm hearing, I'm seeing is that concept of lane integrity. What's our lane? Yep. Yep. Clarifying our lane and staying in it. Yes. Yes, thank you, Davy. That is one of the biggest issues that we come across through. I travel quite a lot, working with a variety of people in a variety of locations, and that is a classic question. You know, how to communicate that individual nature of recovery. If we believe recovery is intrinsically motivated and it is an individual process with multiple pathways, what works for one recovery may not work for another recovery. How then is it being interpreted across the board? Right. Yeah. Glenn, what do you mean by that? They can and must change. Help me understand that a little bit. Teaching the community what recovery is. Okay. I think that falls within our lane as educator, advocate, that big A, advocating for the recovery the community itself. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Not much as to being a, all right, I guess I'm not translating that very well. Okay, providing active services as a recovery coach. Oh, yes, thank you. That's what I thought it meant. So thank you very much. Yeah. A lot of what we do takes us away from being with our recovery sometimes. And again, those among us who are willing to be advocates, do we have to be all things at all times? No, exactly. Sometimes we're advocates. Sometimes we're one-on-one providers of services. Sometimes we're educators. Yep, clinicians can be skeptical making progress because we can be an asset. We can be a partner. We can have a relationship. Yep. No, we can't be all things at all times. That's right. That's right. And again, the one beauty of being in a group situation where you have multiple recovery coaches providing services and again, multiple layers is that perhaps those who are, again, willing to be the advocate role, those who are willing to be the educator role, those who are really great one-on-one but have no interest in communicating outside of that role. Um, that's kind of the beauty of working in concert with one another. Yes. Yes, at a particular time. Yes. What's the situation? What's the individual? What's the particular time? You guys are rich. This is rich, rich, rich thought and consideration. All right. Are there any other thoughts? Any last thoughts? Anything you want to communicate or ask or yeah. This is an ongoing consideration, this one. There are no clear-cut answers to this one just yet. So I really do appreciate your willingness to explore it and look at all the layers. All right. So what I'm going to do now, this is the fun part. While we were setting up, I have randomly and as equally as I'm able assigned you each to a breakout room where in the next few minutes you'll have an opportunity to chat amongst yourselves. And I'm going to show you what the questions are. And I'll go over very clearly. Those of you in breakout room 1, you'll only be asked to discuss the question 1. Those of you in breakout room 2, you can your first point of business is to discuss the question 2. And those of you in breakout room 3 I learned I do not have a mic. Okay, it's not a problem. We can use the chat box within those rooms and we'll just miss your voice. And then those in breakout room 3 will discuss 3. After you've looked at your consideration for a little bit, absolutely moving forward to consider a couple of the others, all adds to the conversation at the end. So, but your first point of business is to discuss the first question. And with that, first I will give you some permissions. There you go. And I will start the breakouts.
And
Hi, Chip. I see you've joined us. So I'm going to put you in one of the breakout rooms and have you join one of the groups that's in discussion. So that'll be a little bit interesting coming in, but I'm sure they'll be charitable and help you out. I'll pop you into breakout room 3. Okay, I'm just about to end the breakouts.
We'll be turning over to Medicaid managed care.
Okay, I've brought you all back in. I'm going
Hello.
to mute some microphones until it's, hi guys, it's neat to hear everybody. I'll give you a chance to say hi and hear each other. I will
Hello.
go ahead and mute some microphones and then have each person report out from the different groups. All right, so let me do that first. Mhm. Let's see. All righty. Some of you I can mute from here. You may have to mute yourselves. All right. All righty.
Can you hear me now?
Who am I hearing? Is that Glenn? I know, Melody, you don't actually have a microphone on your piece either. So, all right. So, may I have a volunteer from group 1? Who is going to be from? You can raise your hand. Let me know who we're going to hear from group 1 to talk about what you discussed. No volunteers? So let me ask it this way. Who had a working microphone in group 1? Was that Glenn? You can raise your hand. Okay, Jamer has. Great. Excellent. Then I'll unmute you. All
I don't
right.
think I was in group
Jamer.
one. I was with Danielle and
Oh.
Davy.
Oh, you were in group 2. All right. Well, let's see. Who was in group 1? Glenn, were you in group 1? Let me unmute you and see if you can raise your hand. That little icon up at the top of your screen with a hand. You can raise a hand and let me know who was in group 1, who'd be willing to report out from group 1. Oh, Anne, I see you're typing. Were you in? Yeah, I'll unmute you so you can speak. How's that?
Hmm.
I know Euphemia and Janet were in 3. I believe. Did you end up discussing question 3 then, Anne?
Yep.
Oh, all right. Well, then we'll add you. We'll just have one big group. Did anyone discuss? Let me put it this way. Let's put it this way. Did anyone discuss question 1? You can raise your hand and let me know. And if not, then all right. We can revisit that question very briefly. I know. Okay, so Anne did raise your hand. Okay.
It was
We
something we did last week.
Yes, it is. And that's kind of intriguing. We looked at it last week inadvertently because we were talking originally about personal Facebook. And as I remember, Jamer and Glenn discussed that, and I believe it was you, Jamer, had an organizational Facebook page. And so that's all right. If we didn't discuss group 1, do you remember what were some of the things that were in place for an organizational Facebook page?
With Families Against Narcotics. They, administrators and strictly post and information posts. So, and have good administrators so that there's no gossip. Also on my personal Facebook, I keep it educational, no politics, no religion, strictly ethical.
Exactly. Here, I'll go ahead and unmute. and Glenn, because I know you were in group 1 last week, and Janet as well. So we'll see if we can navigate conversation amongst and between us. There's not that many of us on here. If we were 200, we couldn't do it this way. So yes, and as I remember what Jamer said is they do the same thing. They post information only. They post about meetings or potentially job opportunities. Am I remembering that correctly, Jamer?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's fair. Diving into some of those other parts, the posts, the tweets, the snaps, one of the recovery coaches that I was talking with yesterday actually uses the idea of Snapchat and or photo sharing via text as a way to check in with her recovery coaches, and that's an organizational policy. They are able to do that as long as they have consent from their recoverees to do that. And she said that's interesting working with the younger population because many of them, respond very quickly with their phones, and they will send her pictures of their room if it is clean. Like if that's something they're working on is tidiness and keeping things organized. Sometimes they'll snap a picture and show the recovery coach what they're doing, and then she'll snap back a thumbs up. So that's an interesting use of technology and social media. Yeah. I thought that was pretty neat. Again, a lot of us are seeing younger people, and again, adapting and meeting them where they are. So then let's look at group 2. Who was in group 2, considering that role of supervision? Okay. Would you like to report out for your group and tell us what you talked about, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
We just talked about what would be some of the differences between having a classic supervisor and a peer supervisor. Overall, I think we felt that the peer supervisor would be more understanding of the peers that they're supervising. They will be able to approach it from a peer aspect, having an understanding of recovery, whether it's from mental health or substance use, whereas the classic supervisor could have some information about it, but could never have that personal understanding. It could make judgments based off of their learned beliefs.
Okay. So what are some of the experience and qualifications an organization might consider when hiring that recovery coach supervisor? And for those of you who don't
I think they should consider the person's lived recovery, how long they've actually been in recovery and been clean. Their training, their organizational skills, their people skills.
You have to navigate a whole lot of relationships when you're the supervisor, correct?
That is correct. I know I am one.
Well, then I'm glad I gave you that question. Yes, indeed. Are there certain things that, again, as a recovery coach supervisor, you do that in a classic supervisory role you would not do?
As a peer supervisor myself, I kind of let my team lead me. They're the experts. They're the one out there doing the majority of the work. I'm just overseeing. I try to support them when they're having those hard days or they're feeling overwhelmed. I try to pick up where they can't. With a classic supervisor, I don't think they have very much room to do that because they're looking at it more along the lines of, this is why I hired you, this is your job, you should be able to do it.
Yep. Yep. That's true. Being a recovery coach is a learning opportunity pretty much of the time. Again, because if recoveries are individual, bringing individual stories and individual situations, and we're now helping them navigate that, with that individual perspective, you're right. That opportunity for learning one's job as one goes along is massive. We're continually learning. And I see Davey, yep, in the chat. They must fully understand recovery to hire. It's right. It's not the extension of a service offering. It is a complete understanding of recovery itself. So thank you. Thank you for that. The group that I met with yesterday were really intriguing. They use this concept of supervision. Again, all the things you highlighted, the idea that it's individual, that it's really recovery based, there has to be such a real understanding and a deep understanding of recovery. They use this concept of supervision as actually a place of self-care. How's that strike you? And what I mean by that is that they are able to then share difficult situations with each other, gain perspective from each other, help support each other. Yep. There's a place if an RC is struggling, somebody else is able to step up, assist in the recovery caseload. They do a lot of work with caseloads. Yep. You see what is an appropriate caseload. Do some situations require you to have fewer people under your care? Signs of burnout. Yes. Because sometimes we can't see it ourselves. Yes, thank you, Danielle. Any other thoughts or comments? We often think of classic supervisors as like those people who are keeping tabs on us, and in a recovery coach supervision role, I love the way Jamer said that. It's really, you're learning, you're letting your recovery coaches lead you, and you're learning what kind of support they need and how to best support them. Any thoughts or comments, questions? You all have access to your mic, so feel free to talk with us. Let us know. All right. Then let's look at question 3. I know that was Euphemia and was it Janet? Yes, in 3? Or was it Anne? I apologize. Yes.
I think 2 different groups did it.
That's right. I forgot group 1 did it too. So
it.
let's take the first group that had Melody in it. What did you guys, that's right. How did you approach question 3? And then we'll talk to group 3.
You want to do this thing?
Yeah, Melody, I don't think she has.
Nope, I know she doesn't.
Yeah, Melody, I don't think she has audio. So,
we looked at the responsibility
we looked at the responsibility
maintain
for ourselves,
our own recovery,
maintain
give ourselves
our own recovery, to keep ourselves in check.
I remember all the notes.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember all the notes.
To keep a professional with our recovery. Crossing the boundaries.
To watch crossing the boundaries.
In a small community.
Especially if we live in a small community. And paths can cross between parents, knowing their children.
We talked last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to what we talked last week.
It's a real fine line to keep them segregated.
It's a real fine line to keep them segregated.
So not to break the confidentiality.
So not to break the confidentiality.
a big ethical responsibility is maintaining that confidentiality.
I
I
executive
for advice for executive with the drug court judge, like not to involve her with any cases that she's ever seen.
five
We only have maybe
area.
5 recovery
We don't
coaches
have
in our area, so we don't have a lot of
Directly.
support directly.
So relying on each other, are you in concert with the other coaches?
But
to when we can meet up.
when we can meet up
Sometimes
once a month. Sometimes
we
I talk with some of them privately
Mm-hmm.
on Messenger
and then I also one of the gals.
and then I also one of the gals who's coach. She also writes for the drug court, and to
But also now
discuss different things with her, but also not to break the confidentiality and the trust of the recoveries, because a lot of them, again,
Mm-hmm.
we know
a lot of layers.
We know them personal.
So
a lot of layers.
I see Melody is adding something.
A lot of layers.
Yep. Care for ourselves. That's right. We have an ethical responsibility to ourselves. Yes. Yes. I thought that was interesting, as I said, when I met with the group yesterday, who use the idea of group supervision as a time for self-care, to really respond to that ethical responsibility to themselves. If you can't,
Okay, I'm
if you
on a
can't,
training. I'm on a training. Yeah,
all right.
I'm on
So,
ethics training. Yeah, I am at home, but I'm in ethics training.
yep, the policies and procedures of our employers. Yes. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you, Janet. Yes, you each can mute yourself if you need to. So, group 3, did you have something to add? What did you consider when you looked at this question, group 3?
Yeah, the other group.
Yeah, I think that was
Yeah, the other group.
I know Euphemia was in there, and I think Janet, I think you were at that point. It's okay if I have dogs, I understand. Yes, our
Yes.
biases, knowing when to refer out, that is absolutely an ethical responsibility of ours. Yep, our roles, our responsibilities. Setting the ground rules first with our recoveries. Yep, that was very clear, especially as highlighted by that first scenario. And then again by that second scenario as an organization, setting those ground rules first, understanding what the responsibilities are. Trust, honesty, support. I love it. Yes, humility. We don't know what we don't know, and it's okay that we don't know it, but we can be willing to learn it. Modeling behavior, knowing when we need help. How to reconcile it. Thank you for looking at that piece. Yes, go to other recovery coaches, ask for help. Yes, and in general terms, not divulging that personal information. That's true. That's that concept of group supervision, sharing with each other, learning from each other, helping each other. This is what I experienced. How might that help you? Yep, supervision, supervision, supervision. Yep. How to provide the best coaching without interjecting the personal stuff. So I know when I walked into that room 3, I raised that question is, what ethical responsibility does the recovery coach have to himself when he or she finds himself in opposition with organizational policies? You know, if something just doesn't feel right. I see. Yeah. We can discuss it with those in charge. Yep. You may have to consider where you work and leave. Yeah. Or ask more questions to be sure you understand clearly. Indeed. Excellent, excellent, excellent. You're well set up for next week as well then. We're creating an ethics committee. Yes. Get outside input. Get outside input. You know, what are some of the ethical challenges? What are some of the ethical considerations? What are some of the ethical opportunities? How do we act in the best interest of our recovery? Looking organizationally at relationships we undertake. Is this in the best interest of our work as recovery coaches? Should we do this as an organization? Yep. Maintaining appropriate boundaries, organizational boundaries, individual boundaries. Integrity. Great word. Yes, yes, yes. I see a couple more people typing.
Says you are typing.
All right. Any last thoughts, any considerations about, oh, let's see, Melody did some outreach with a community soup kitchen. After meeting with the management and staff, it was decided that not everyone in their population was appropriate for recovery coaching. Yes, it's okay. It's okay to determine that, you know what, maybe that's not where we are appropriately engaged. You know, where do we meet our people? This was significant. Yes, yes. That would, again, outside my lane. I am not a clinician. And it's okay to educate about recovery coaching. Educating about it doesn't mean that we then, engage in it with everyone we educate. But everyone we educate knows that it's available, knows that it exists, and can access it when they're ready. That's right. They'll identify who are the appropriate individuals. Yes, the individual can choose. Is this something for me? Is this something I want? Do I want recovery coaching? Not everybody wants recovery coaching. Hard to believe, I know. Okay. I see it says Anne is typing, so I will wait just a minute and see if that's true.
And
So
typing
Melody
is
brings up a
like
great point. As an organization, they are moving toward
like
forming an ethics committee. Is that something that exists in the other organizations where you find yourselves? I know several of you work for organizations.
I'll type it in.
Uh-huh.
This is Anne.
This is Anne.
Hi,
My
Anne.
typing stopped.
My
I'm not typing.
not typing.
Oh, okay, that's great. No problem. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Nope.
No,
Just the keys were
Okay.
stuck.
just the keys were stuck.
Oh, no problem. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for the heads up. I won't wait longer then. Does anybody have anything they want to add about any of these quick things? Anything that it makes you wonder? Chip says he meets on a regular basis with his fellow recovery coaches. Yes, decompress, discuss things that you're going through. Yes. That was indeed the case yesterday. As I say, this group is they schedule an hour a week. They said it usually runs into an hour and a half or more, because by the time they start to share and start to support each other and get to decompress, they just start to feel great and they feel empowered to go do their jobs again. Yes, indeed. All right. So again, let's look ahead. Let's if at the end of the day, this is what we hope you'll take away from today, is that it's pretty clear that organizational policies and decisions have significant or may have significant impact for recovery coaches and for their recoveries. Organizational use of recovery coaching can pose challenges to and opportunities for ethical behavior. And again, just as some of you have anticipated and or already set up, that this dynamic is what drives the need for ethical codes of conduct, ethical committees within organizations. And again, that idea of supervision, what does that look like? How can it help? Anything anyone else has taken away?
I understand we have the need in this area more backup or support for recovery coaches. We may have to reach out to the teachers because we're probably 35, 40 miles away. Whether we investigate more becoming teachers, recovery coach teachers, try to expand as much as we can to recruit more people, because there is a lack of we have case managers we can see where I believe have gone through the recovery coach training.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an area I'm going to investigate in.
Excellent. Yes. Yep. I see a couple of people. Melody, I know, is typing. Okay. It's a reciprocal relationship. Yep. Yep. So our models are changing. We're developing this designation. It's been around for a while, but now as it becomes more universally adapted or included in organizations, we have to, as I said earlier in the day, if we don't create it, somebody else will. So what does it look like? It's incumbent on those of us doing the work to make sure that we also, grow professionally, understand some of those ethical considerations, the ramifications. What does this designation look like? How do we conduct ourselves? How are we perceived? How are we doing this work? Because if we don't define ourselves, somebody else will.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I really, I can't tell you. I know the technology is interesting, and we're learning as we're going with that too. But I appreciate your willingness this morning to dive into the scenarios, to really think them through, to share with each other. Any questions, comments, and let's go back to using the chat, because that way I think we'll do it pretty quickly. I'll get rid of the microphone rights. I see a couple people typing, so questions, comments, thoughts? Oh, yes. Thank you, Euphemia. It was really good meat. Lots of good discussion. Yes, it is. The struggles are real. They are similar. And yes, there's hope for some successful outreach and for doing this work well. it's one thing to do it. It's really imperative that we do it well, for the sake of our recoveries. Again, I go all the way back to the beginning when we talk about fiduciary responsibility. We have a special obligation to those we are helping. Um, okay, all right. Yes, you should have an access to the recording. And thank you for presupposing my last wrap up, which would be that at the end of this session, you will get an email from Stacy again with a link to a survey and information about next week's um, session, 9 o'clock again. I get to see or hear or be with all of you again. I hope. And again, there'll be a recording of this session. And again, if all goes well, we'll record next session as well. So, uh, yes, yes, we're earning the trust of case managers. Yes, the best integrity we can present and project. Thank you, Anne. And I liked your comment about reaching out and educating more people and helping to grow the number of coaches. It sounds like you have quite a distance issue where you are. But again, reaching out with each other electronically and connecting. Yep, I think we all share a lot of concerns and similar challenges. Thank you, Danielle. I'm very grateful that you all were here and willing to learn together with us. I learn as much every time. Yes, thank you, Davy. Yes. Wow, 80 people a day. That's fantastic. Davy, where are you located? Idaho. Fantastic. Nice to have you here. That is, yeah, thank you. I love it. We are using this as a connecting point for recovery and for recovery coaches. That is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,